The preseason top 25 AP poll has officially been released, and Texas A&M is sitting pretty good.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. You are Locked On the Texas A&M Aggies. I am your host, Matt Galatzan, publisher of Texas A&M Aggies on SI. Thank you for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. You can download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Zach, we finally have our first edition of the preseason AP Top 25 poll. Some things we expected in there, some things we, maybe didn't. But Texas A&M is sitting a little bit prettier than they were in the coaches poll, at least. And I think that this is a lot more appropriate of a spot for them. They come in at number 19. And in just a minute for the YouTube crowd, we're going to bring up the graphic showing the entire top 25. But Texas A&M comes in at number 19 in the country. They are sitting 2 spots higher than they were at the coaches poll in 2021. And I feel like this is at least a little bit more fair of a place for them, Zach.
Yeah, I think it's pretty fair to say that A&M is a top 20 team in the country entering the season, just based on what they did last year, based on the trajectory heading into this season. So, yeah, 19 is a good spot for them, in my opinion. There's some question marks about some of the teams ranked ahead of them. Particularly Oklahoma 18 is definitely interesting to me. I just think that, Oklahoma, they got a new quarterback in John Mateer, but I don't know if I trust Brent Venables next season based off what OU did. I know they had some injury troubles last year, but I'd put A&M above Oklahoma heading into the season. Kansas State at 17, SMU at 16. I don't know. I mean, I know they made it to the CFP last season, but I just think that A&M could be right in that range of 16. Once you get to like 15, where Florida is at, you can make a debate. Okay, maybe that's where it stops for A&M, but you can't get too stressed over a preseason AP poll. It's nice to have a number next to the name when you first enter the season. It looks better, but it doesn't really mean much in the grand scheme of things. And like we've talked about on the show, it's actually kind of better for A&M if they really don't have a big giant, monkey on their back when it comes to preseason pressure, which we know they have not been able to live up to in the past. So, I think 19 is a good spot, and we'll see how things play out if they end up, exceeding those expectations or, dipping below a little bit.
Yeah. And I agree with you. I think that A&M should probably be ranked higher than Oklahoma. I think they should probably be ranked higher than Kansas State, SMU. Florida is kind of a good judgment spot there. I think that they're a better football team than Florida too. Michigan, I think, is probably the team on this list that I think is ranked far too high. But in terms of Texas A&M, I get it. It's really hard to get the confidence to rank them in the top 15, top 10, even though they have a wealth of returning talent, a ton of experience, all the things that you want to see in a team. The 8-4 thing, that stigma is not going anywhere until they prove that they can do something else. So I get why voters are putting them in this position. I get why the coaches were putting him in this position for the coaches poll. I don't necessarily agree with it. I think that this team is going to do some pretty good things this year. But it is, it is what it is. You have your ranking. Now you can walk into the regular season with a little bit of a chip on your shoulder. You get your first 2 games to kind of get your feet under you and, kind of get ingrained into the schedule and all, going through the motions of the early part of the season. And then you get your first, big time matchup against a top 10 team when they head to Notre Dame and take on the Fighting Irish, who come to this poll ranked number 6 in the country. So why don't we do this, Zach? Why don't we pull up the graphic and we'll kind of go through the top 25 overall for the crowd on YouTube. They'll be able to see the graphic. If not, we'll be reading out each one, so don't worry about that. And then we'll say, who we think's too high, who we think's too low. where people kind of fit just right. Off the bat, I think A&M fans are going to be probably pretty upset, but that's okay because this just seems to be the trend this offseason. So you pull up the graphic here and you see the Texas Longhorns coming in at number 1, Zach. And, it's kind of been the trend. There's all the hype surrounding Arch Manning. There's all the hype surrounding the defense there, the playmakers they have there. Steve Sarkisian entering his 4th year, I believe. And so they've been 5th year. Sorry, they've been the preseason number 1 for just about everybody. And then Penn State comes in at number 2. Again, a lot of returning talent there. Number 2 running back, or the 2 running back tandem there with Singleton is just one of the best in the country by far. They got Drew Aller coming back, James Franklin. It's a prove-it year for him. And then we have Ohio State at number 3, Clemson, who might have 6 NFL draft picks in the first round next year on this football team, coming in at number 4. And then the Georgia Bulldogs and Kirby Smart coming in at number 5. Zach, I feel like that's a pretty solid top 5 there. I might flip Penn State and Clemson, but I feel pretty good about that top 5.
Yeah, it's a good top 5. I think it's, you could make an argument maybe for Notre Dame because they were in the title game last season, but of course they had some changes as well to their roster, so you never know how that's going to go. But yeah, I think the top 5 is pretty good with the teams that are there. However, I could make a really solid argument to maybe even have Penn State at 1, maybe even Clemson, just because of the returning quarterbacks. I know it's just one player, but that can make the world of a difference when it comes to just solely preseason expectations. I think it's fair to say that if Texas did not have Arch Manning, they would not be number 1. That's just my opinion, but I just think Penn State, they have tons of returning talent. It's kind of similar to A&M maybe with Penn State, the stigma of not being able to finish, not being able to really reach the mountaintop. Maybe that's why they're not number 1. I don't know, but I think Ohio State at 3 is fine for me, but you can maybe even argue Clemson and Penn State at number 1. Certainly above Texas potentially. I think Texas is certainly a top 5 team, but just because of the quarterbacks, I think that Penn State and Clemson will definitely contend this season. But of course, like we've said, this is just preseason polls. Doesn't mean much until you actually kick off. I mean, Texas and Ohio State, they could easily just flip-flop after that first game, depending on, if Ohio State's able to pull off the win. And so these are going to change a lot, in the coming weeks. And certainly for A&M, they have lots of chances during the season, to move up in the AP poll, even though that doesn't necessarily matter in the grand scheme. But, week 3 at Notre Dame, I mean, A&M's probably going to go be 2-0 heading into that game. If you win that, you're probably immediately a top 10 team in the AP poll, and that can go a long way, obviously, towards your CFP chances as well. So it's nice to see for A&M's case that Notre Dame is ranked as high as they are. You wouldn't mind seeing them maybe in the top 5, because then if A&M's able to pull that win off, you say you beat a top 5 team on the road. But yeah, lots of teams on here that have a case to be higher. That's the kind of the beauty of this season, is that there's not really a consensus number 1 team. So it leads to lots of fun conversation in the weeks leading up to the season.
Yeah, absolutely. You continue down the list too, and you begin to notice a bit of a trend here with a lot of these top 10 teams. Notre Dame at number 6. They just reported today CJ Carr and Kenny Minchie are battling for the number one job there. So maybe that's kind of something that's keeping Notre Dame a little bit lower than they might be otherwise. First year starting quarterback for Oregon in Dante Moore at number 7 there for the Ducks. Number 8, Alabama, first year starter Ty Simpson. It doesn't seem like Kalen DeBoer has an overwhelming amount of confidence that he's going to be the starter for the entire season. You get to LSU, Garrett Nussmeier at number 9. They have Garrett Nussmeier as their starter. He's well entrenched. He's, one of the best quarterbacks in college football. And then another new quarterback at number 10 from the Miami Hurricanes. You got Carson Beck, another new starting quarterback. So if you look down the list, we have out of the top 10, 7 teams will be starting new quarterbacks. So it's going to be a wide open year, I think, in college football. Going quickly down the list, we'll say Arizona State at number 11, number 12, Illinois, number 13. The best, South Carolina Gamecocks, arguably the best quarterback in the country for my money, in Lenore Sellers, number 14. Michigan Wolverines, number 15, Florida, number 16, SMU, 17, Kansas State, 18, Oklahoma Sooners, 19, the Texas A&M Aggies, number 20, perhaps the most overrated team in the country for my money, the Indiana Hoosiers, number 21, the Ole Miss Rebels, number 22, Iowa State, with a sick new logo there that I have not seen before.
Wow.
Number 23, the Texas Tech Red Raiders, who have spent more money than anyone else in the transfer portal by far, it seems like, this past offseason. Number 24, Tennessee Volunteers, and number 25, Boise State Broncos. Zach, quickly, is there anybody in this top 25 that you think is far too low? And we can't use Texas A&M. We both think that they're probably somewhere in the 14 to 20 range, and we've covered that already. So who's someone you think is far too low on this list?
I think maybe Ole Miss. That's kind of a tough one for me. I don't think any team is particularly far too low. I think Ole Miss, I know they lost Jackson Dart and, lost a good amount of offensive weapons, Trey Harris as well. But I just think that with Lane Kiffin, he's a proven success when it comes to offensive coaching. We know Ole Miss is going to be able to compete a little bit in SEC. I don't know if they're going to be able to make it to the SEC championship. But I think that Ole Miss should be ranked a little bit higher, certainly above a team like Oklahoma. In my opinion, I'm just not as high in Oklahoma heading into the season. But yeah, I'm going to say Ole Miss. I would say maybe Texas Tech, but they're kind of a little bit more unproven. In my opinion, we don't know how it's all going to shake out for them heading into the season. So having Ole Miss at 21, that's actually kind of good for them because it's not as much pressure as last year. Where last year a lot of people were really expecting them to really contend in the SEC, but they had some pretty notable slip-ups. So I think that Lane Kiffin and company are going to be able to learn from that last season because they're right on the brink and they just couldn't get it done. And so, I'll go with Ole Miss. But you can make a case for Texas Tech. Like I said, we got to see how that plays out for them, though.
Yeah, I was going to go with Ole Miss as well. I think that's going to be a really good football team. I think Austin Simmons is going to be a very good quarterback. I think he's going to be a top 5 quarterback in the SEC. I think that they should be right up there with A&M and Florida, and kind of in the middle of that second 10, as you would say. They're in the top 25. I don't disagree with you either. I think Texas Tech, I have them winning the Big 12, and it's, it would be surprising to me if they finish the season as low as number 23. I get you got to come in and prove it. It's a lot of new pieces in there that are gonna, maybe take some time to get together, but it's a talented football team. I think that they're going to win the Big 12, but I do maintain Indiana should not be in the top 25. I think Michigan is also way too high up there at number 14. They're starting a true freshman at quarterback. I don't see that as a top 15 football team. So, but maybe that's just me. And I'm really also not that big of a believer in Sherrone Moore, but it's neither here nor there. Zach, let's change gears. We are going to come back and we are going to talk about an interesting Jimbo Fisher conversation. We thought we were done with Jimbo Fisher. We are not done with Jimbo Fisher here in Aggie land. So we're going to get into that here in a sec. So stick with us after this break. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. We've all been there, logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. Are you tired of endless scrolling trying to find the best deal? Game Time Zone Deals pick the best seats in your section for you. Take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, Zachary. Jimbo Fisher will not go away. And I've about had it. We've been covering Texas A&M for Texas A&M Aggies on SI since June of 2021. So we got our fill of Jimbo Fisher over the last few years. He got fired, and rightfully so at the end of the 2023 season. The team was not living up to expectations. The team was constantly disappointing. And, I thought he should have been fired sooner, but obviously that buyout has been a massive albatross on Texas A&M for quite some time. I believe it's a $76 million buyout, which is by far the biggest in the history of college football.
Yep.
And it's something that it's a little bit of a black eye for Texas A&M. It was such an embarrassing end for him in so many ways. You talk about the constantly underperforming and the 5-7 season and all this stuff, but then you sign the number one recruiting class in the history of all recruiting classes, the best that has ever been put together, and almost all of it is gone well before it should have been. Not due to the NFL either, due to transfers and players getting kicked off the team and all this different stuff. So very embarrassing. So embarrassing, in fact, that I never thought that he would try and get another job as a coach again. I mean, why would you? You have $76 million coming your way from Texas A&M over the next 10 years. But no, apparently he is returning, or he's trying to return to college football. He would very much like to get another job. And, I got to say, Zach, if he gets a job, if somebody is dumb enough to hire Jimbo Fisher, I will be shocked. But he's going to try.
Yeah, whatever program potentially hires him is just asking for a massive spotlight that isn't necessarily a positive one, and it has nothing to do with him as a person. I don't think Jimbo Fisher is a bad guy. I don't think any of that stuff about him. I just think that I just don't know if he can coach at a high level anymore. He had a really productive time at Florida State. Obviously, won a national title there, but you see sometimes throughout sports history, you have a guy that wins a title somewhere, kind of like Doc Rivers, in my opinion, in the NBA. He wins one title, and then he just is stuck with that his whole career. But despite winning that title, he hasn't done anything after that. And so I don't know. That's kind of just my comparison for Jimbo Fisher there. But yeah, I don't know. It wasn't necessarily a bad hire at the time. Obviously, he had really, lots of production at Florida State. Here's some of the seasons: 10-4, 9-4, 12-2, 14-0, when they won it all. 13-1, 10-3, 10-3. So, we can't really fault A&M for making the hire when they did. But I don't know. It's clear he wasn't the kind of personality and the kind of guy for College Station, especially when A&M is a team that is just tired of not contending anymore, and so. It's best that both sides moved on. It's not really best for A&M considering that they had a $76 million buyout with him. So it's not like it was a equal parting of ways where things worked out for both sides. But I think A&M is trying to forget about that, moving in the right direction with Mike Elko. But yeah, Jimbo Fisher, it seems like he just won't go away. And it's kind of hard for him to go away when he's just kind of financially tied to A&M for like a decade at this point, or it will be for a decade. So yeah, it's gonna be hard to forget about him for a little bit for sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of fight back with you a little bit about this. They should not have hired Jimbo Fisher ever. I get that he was a national title coach, but over the last 3 years of his career at Florida State, it wasn't terrible. 2015 they were 10-3, lost to Peach Bowl. 2016 10-3, won the Orange Bowl, whatever. 2017, the year before he came to College Station, he was 5-6. You hired a 5-6 head coach. Right. I don't think they should have done that. If they had hired him the year before, then I probably wouldn't have had as much of an issue with it. But that just kind of, when that happened, I was like, why are they doing this? And then they ended up doing it anyway. That's fine. It's over and done with. Mike Elko is in College Station now, and I think he's going to have a much better future ahead of him. But it begs the question, like, why? Like, why are you trying to return? Or do you just miss the spotlight? Because you don't need the money. You're getting an average of $7.6 million in your bank account every year over the next 10 years. That's not including the job you have right now in radio, which I don't know how much they're paying him. It's probably not, a ton of money, like in terms of former college football head coaches kinds of money, but it's probably a pretty decent paycheck, probably more than you and I make. Why are you trying to return? I get that you're a lifetime football coach. You probably miss it. I don't know who would want to hire this guy. For me too, it's not a personal shot at Jimbo Fisher. I just, I think that his time as a coach has passed. It's been a couple years. I don't think that there's at least a power conference team that would want to take that risk. It's not like it doesn't have the appeal of a, like what North Carolina did with Bill Belichick, or, like what some people have tried to, put together with John Gruden returning to college football recently. Things like that. I don't quite understand it. And here's another thing that I don't like about Jimbo Fisher, in terms of being a college football coach. He kind of has this thing, like he has like a revisionist history of the way that he likes to remember things. Specifically the thing that there's a couple things we're gonna talk about one for a minute, and then we're not going to talk about the other one because it's not a Texas A&M conversation necessarily. But the one we're not going to talk about first, he thinks the 2013 Florida State National Championship team is the best college football team of all time. Why? Because he was the coach. But he goes through this argument about how they scored the most points ever up until 2019 LSU broke that record and they had the biggest point differential. What he failed to say was like 7 or 8 of the teams that you played had below 500 or below records. And yeah, it was a really good football team, don't get me wrong, but like 2001 Miami, 2019 LSU, 2004 USC, 2005 Texas, those Florida teams, some of these Alabama teams recently, really, really good football teams. Yep. I think all would beat the Florida State team. Anyway, but my favorite one, and we're going to talk about this briefly before we move on to our next topic. He said he never wanted to leave Florida State. He was very upset that he left Florida State, and he doesn't know, like he was making it seem like it wasn't his choice to come to Texas A&M, which obviously isn't the case.
Right. Yeah, he said it on the Trials to Triumph podcast, which is where he did the interview that's now since gone viral the past couple of days. He said that leaving Florida State was the most difficult thing I've ever done. Never wanted to go. And listen, I loved A&M. We had great success. I mean, the last couple of years we didn't, but that run we had there, and I don't mean that in anything there. Man, he really likes to ramble on. I did not ever want to leave Florida State, end quote. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of the revisionist history, like you talked about, probably not true on his part there, but now that we're, more than a decade removed from his time winning the championship at Florida State, now he's making it seem like this was such a hard decision. Oh, I love the Seminoles. Maybe it's even like he's like reaching out in a way, trying to return there. Who knows? But yeah, I just think that if you're a coach that is actually going to be desired when it comes to making a return, you don't have to make these kind of statements saying you want to return. So I just don't see it happening for him. But yeah.
Well, that one in particular, it's not even revisionist history. It is revisionist history, but it goes so much deeper than that. It's a flat out lie, because he resigned from Florida State so that he could accept the Texas A&M job.
Right.
He chose. Nobody forced him to do that. He wanted to leave for Texas A&M. Maybe the dollar signs were really big in his face, and he got tempted by it. Maybe he regretted the decision afterwards. But he did that of his own accord. He wanted to leave, whether it was for the money or for a new opportunity, whatever the case may be. Maybe he was about to get fired at Florida State, and we just don't know that, because he did go 5-6, and his team went pretty sharply downhill after their national championship. Regardless, I don't know who's going to hire him. Maybe it'll be like, Dan Mullen just got a job at UNLV. Maybe maybe he'll get a job at some Group of 5 place that's looking to make a splash and get some some decent recruits in there. Maybe there's an ACC team who's going to be firing their coach in the coming months as we get through football season, and he can return to the ACC and try and build his career back up. Either way, just very interesting interesting thing from Jimbo Fisher to potentially try and return to college football, which I don't think anybody wants to see happen. That has cheered for Texas A&M over the past few years. But we're going to change gears once again. We're going to close out the show with a quick segment. Just give you guys an update on Texas A&M Aggies in the NFL, how they did during the preseason. A couple rookies that really stood out, and one veteran who made a big play as well. So stick with us, and we'll be right back. All right, Zach, we've got about 5 minutes left in the show. We are going to cover some preseason Aggie NFL action. The NFL had its real week 1 of preseason over the weekend. We had the Hall of Fame game last week. That I never really count that one because it's just seems kind of weird to me. I've never really considered it the start of the football season, or at least the preseason. But the first full week of the NFL preseason was this past weekend. Some Aggies stood out, and it's some pretty good things that we like to see. Let's start with Shemar Stewart. He kind of I thought that he really impressed against the Eagles. He played in 18 different snaps. He had a tackle for loss, and he was very, very, obviously making a push in that pass rush throughout the entire game. And that's something you love to see because this guy's only been practicing with his team for about a week and a half, it seems like. So it's good to see that from Shemar Stewart.
Yeah, it's finally good to just, we're finally here in the preseason and he's finally on the field. And it seemed like that would never end, the whole contract drama. So the fact that he's actually in pads playing in a real organized game with the Bengals is just really refreshing to see. And you really wish the best for him during his rookie season, just because of all the scrutiny he was receiving, wrongfully so, in my opinion, from some people during this whole process. So that was great to see there. But yeah, in that same game, actually, on the other side, for the Eagles, Ainias Smith, who's entering his second season with Philly, obviously, part of that Super Bowl team last year, but was never, used a ton, pretty sparingly, mostly on special teams for him. But yeah, that's Aggie fan favorite right there, Ainias Smith, and he had a pretty nice game, had a touchdown, had a nice punt return against the Bengals. And Nick Sirianni, the Eagles head coach, has spoken pretty highly of him. So, probably expect him to get more of an increased workload next season. Obviously, they still have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, but they get a lot of attention. Those guys are both number 1 wide receivers. So I think Ainias Smith could potentially have a pretty nice season for Philly. But he wasn't the only receiver that stood out. For the Chicago Bears, obviously, Jade Walker caught a touchdown against the Miami Dolphins yesterday. Did his iconic dance down the sideline. I have no idea how he floats through the air like that, but it's absolutely insane to watch. But great for him. He was undrafted. And so being able to make plays like that in the preseason when the lights are brightest, that, does a lot for your chances to make the roster. So yeah, interesting to see how things work out for him, seeing if he makes the roster there in Chicago. I know they, have Ben Johnson's new head coach. So, offense could look a little bit different with Caleb Williams, and maybe Jade Walker gets a chance at a depth role there with Chicago. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and we also have one other quick update for you. It's good to see that from Jade Walker, by the way. The Juby slide, you gotta love to see it. I don't know how he does that either. That is crazy to me. But one other quick update as well. The Carolina Panthers, Nick Scorton had a great outing. He made one of PFF's top rookies in the preseason week 1. He ended up with I just lost my place in this. Let me pull it up real quick. Pro Football Focus grade of 91.8. He sacked Shedeur Sanders once, pressured him twice, giving him a pass rush grade of 90.6. And let's see what else here. And And like he was just in Shedeur Sanders' face, quite a bit that night, which was good to see. And then another Aggie sacked Shedeur Sanders as well. Former Texas A&M safety Damani Richardson got a sack on Sanders, and just good to see him still active in the NFL there and making the best with his opportunity there with Carolina. Hopefully, he's a pretty big part of what they do this season, and hopefully Nick Scorton does the same. Part of that dual pass rusher NFL draft that they had with Princely Umamielen and Nick Scorton. It should be interesting to watch. And the Panthers are a team that I think have potential to make some noise there in the NFC South. So we'll see how that goes. But Zach, that is going to do it for another episode here today of Locked On Aggies. Thank you for making Locked On Aggies your first listen today. For your second listen, please check out the Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. You can be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find the Portal Show on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel. Give me a follow over on Texas A&M Aggies on SI and on X at Matt Galatzan. Follow Zach at Zach Dimmitt 7. That's Dimmitt with 2 M's and 2 T's on X, and also on Texas A&M Aggies on SI. And we will see you next time.